Humanity has always harbored a primal aspiration to reach out with mortal hands and touch the brilliant sun. They crave light. They yearn for infinite energy to rewrite their fate, to escape the constraints of nature. But they have forgotten a cruel cosmic law: the brighter the light, the longer and darker the shadow it casts. And sometimes, what hides within that shadow is far more terrifying than death itself. In the Nevada desert of the United States, the scorching sun threatened to melt space itself. Waves of heat rose from the golden sands, blurring the horizon and turning distant mountain ranges into wavering, spectral mirages. Amidst this harsh and desolate landscape, a heavily fortified security fence bearing the sign Area 51, no trespassing, stood like a challenge to the outside world. But today, the master of this place was not the military or political secrets, but the greatest intellect on Earth. Deep underground, in a massive subterranean base reinforced with Kachin alloy, the hum of engines and the clack of mechanical keyboards echoed ceaselessly. Bulma Briefs stood before a colossal machine towering 30 meters high. Blue light from the control panel illuminated her confident, eager face. She wiped a bead of sweat from her forehead, her blue eyes burning with the fire of bottomless scientific ambition. "Dad, look, the stats are stabilizing at 98%. We're almost there," Bulma shouted, her voice echoing through the metal dome, drowning out the rumble of the cooling system. Dr. Brief, with his familiar black cat perched on his shoulder, was busy adjusting pressure valves at the base of the machine. He looked up at his daughter, his usual gentle smile now tinged with a vague anxiety. "Bulma, are you sure about hiding this power source? If Beerus-sama finds out we are meddling with eternal energy, he won't be pleased." "This is the realm of the gods," Bulma scoffed, her fingers deftly typing a complex command sequence, ignoring her father's worry. "Don't worry, Dad. I rented this entire godforsaken Area 51 just to stay out of his and Whis' sight. Besides, this is Omega energy. It's not a weapon. It's an eternal reactor. Once activated, it will provide free electricity for all of humanity. No more pollution. No more wars over resources. We are creating heaven right here on Earth." The machine before them, the Omega reactor, resembled a polyhedron floating in midair, held in place by rotating magnetic rings. Inside its core was a tiny but blinding point of light, like a captive star waiting to supernova. Initiating final phase, Bulma commanded decisively, her thumb pressing down hard on the bright red start button. A low sound began to resonate. It wasn't just physical sound, but a vibration at an ultra-low frequency, pressing against the chests of every staff member in the lab. The Omega core flared. The magnetic rings spun at dizzying speeds, sending arcs of white lightning crashing into the surrounding lightning rods. But what Bulma, with all her genius, could not foresee was the nature of this energy. To maintain eternity, Omega energy inadvertently emitted an inverse wave frequency, a type of invisible antimatter harmless to physics, but a screeching noise, a blasphemy to beings of divine status. It was like fingernails scratching a chalkboard, amplified billions of times and transmitted across dimensions, shattering the silence of the cosmos. Millions of light years away from Earth, on the planet of the god of destruction Beerus, the inherent peace was suddenly torn apart. The space here was usually tranquil, filled only with the sound of trickling water and peaceful birdsong. Whis, the angel attendant, was strolling leisurely on the lush grass, staff in hand, humming an ancient melody. Suddenly, Whis froze. An invisible shockwave, sharp as a knife, swept through his mind. His calm purple eyes widened to their limit. The hand of the angel, usually so steady, trembled for a beat. The staff slipped from Whis' hand, hitting the ground and striking a rock with a dry clack that broke the silence. This had never happened in his millions of years of service. Whis bent down to pick up the staff, beads of cold sweat on his forehead, muttering, "What is this spine-chilling sensation?" At that moment, from atop the giant ancient tree, A growl erupted. Beerus, the god of destruction who was napping, sprang up like a coiled spring. He gasped, the fur all over his body standing on end like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Beerus's glowing golden eyes darted around. Searching for an invisible enemy in the void, Beerus shouted, his voice cracking with a vague but tangible fear. Did you feel that? Something just clawed at my spine. Something very disgusting, yes. Beerus-sama, Whis replied, his gaze serious as he looked into the crystal orb on his staff. But inside was only a screen of static interference. It is not battle key. It resembles a negation, a frequency attempting to rewrite the laws of nature. And it is emanating from the direction of Universe 7. Beerus narrowed his eyes, his claws shredding the bark of the ancient tree, Universe 7. That troublesome bunch again. But this time, I have a very bad feeling. This is no joke. Meanwhile, back on Earth, at the Grand Canyon, Arizona, majestic red cliffs rose toward the blue sky, creating a magnificent scene. Goku and Vegeta were floating amidst the abyss, the noon sun creating stark contrasts of light and shadow on the Saiyan warriors' toned bodies. They were in a sparring session, using only their base forms to hone pure technique, eschewing Super Saiyan auras. Yet, every clash of their hands, every kick, created sonic booms that tore through the air, causing rocks to tumble into the canyon below. Goku threw an uppercut. Vegeta tilted his head to dodge by a hair's breadth and countered with a roundhouse kick to the ribs. The two separated, floating opposite each other, breathing steadily. But Vegeta suddenly frowned. He didn't rush in to attack again. Instead, he lowered his hands, his dark eyes scanning the surroundings with heightened alert. Stop it, Kakarot, Vegeta said abruptly, his voice dropping low. What's wrong? Vegeta, we were just warming up, Goku asked blankly, scratching his head, still oblivious to the shift in atmosphere. Don't you feel the air getting heavy? Vegeta growled, sweat beginning to bead on his temples, though he wasn't tired. It's not gravity pressure. It feels like the sky is lowering itself onto my lungs. Someone is watching us. Goku blinked, taking a deep breath. I feel normal though. Maybe you didn't eat enough for breakfast. Just as he finished speaking, Goku moved to pat Vegeta on the shoulder to resume the match. But suddenly, Goku's body reacted automatically. His pupils contracted, turning silver for a split second. His entire body flipped backward, performing a zero-gravity somersault in midair to dodge. Nothing. A perfect evasion against a non-existent attack. What? Goku landed, looking down at his trembling hands in shock. He hadn't commanded his body to do that. Vegeta stared wide-eyed at Goku, stunned. Just now, was that Ultra Instinct? I don't know. Goku stared into the empty space before him, where there should have been nothing. My body. It defended itself automatically. It felt something staring right at us. A massive killing intent. But with no physical presence, the wind in the canyon suddenly stopped blowing. A deathly silence enveloped the two strongest warriors in the universe. They felt a chill run down their spines, as if a colossal predator was lurking right behind their necks. Meanwhile, in Universe 11, hailed as the universe of absolute justice, on a desolate planet where only dry gravel and eternal dust storms howled, Jiren, the strongest warrior of the Pride Troopers, was meditating atop a jagged mountain peak. He sat motionless like a statue carved from cold steel, a glowing red aura surrounding him like a protective cocoon, isolating him from the mundane world. Jiren's mind floated in the void, seeking absolute tranquility to fortify his power. But then, the signal hit. The inverse wave from Bulma's Omega experiment pierced through the multiverse barriers, transmitting into Jiren's mind like a sledgehammer striking a still lake. To Jiren, who worshipped order and absolute strength, this signal was not an admirable scientific achievement. It was chaos. It was noise, staining the sacred balance of the universe. Jiren's pitch-black eyes, deep as cosmic black holes, slowly opened. A terrifying pressure exploded from his body, blowing every rocky mountain within a 100-mile radius into flat land. As the dust settled, only his overwhelming presence remained. Jiren. A commanding voice rang out. Toppo, the candidate for God of Destruction and leader of the Pride Troopers, stepped out of a warp gate. He stroked his massive mustache, his face set in grim seriousness. "You felt it too, didn't you?" Jiren stood up. His shadow stretched long across the cracked earth. He didn't turn his head, but his cold voice seemed to freeze the surrounding air. "It comes from Universe 7. A distortion of reality, correct?" Toppo nodded in confirmation. Dispo reports that the spatial barrier between the two universes is cracking due to that strange frequency. If left unchecked, it could cause a butterfly effect that collapses the multiverse. Jiren clenched his fist. Red and black lightning shot from between his fingers, tearing the space around him. Son Goku, the name left Jiren's mouth filled with suppressed rage. "You again? Your existence, your foolish curiosity, is a mistake of creation." Jiren turned around. This time, his eyes held none of the mercy or respect from the Tournament of Power years ago. It was the gaze of an executioner preparing to carry out a sentence. Justice cannot tolerate the seeds of destruction. I will not wait for the gods to judge. I will correct this mistake myself. Behind Jiren, not a single spaceship, but an entire fleet of Pride Troopers was assembling, ready for a holy war. Jiren raised his hand, tearing open the space in front of him with pure power, creating a direct path to the signal source. Back at Area 51, Nevada, Bulma's initial joy had vanished completely, replaced by sheer panic. The computer screens in the lab began flashing wildly. Numbers jumped erratically without logic. Sirens wailed, mingling with the increasingly loud, beast-like growl of the Omega Reactor. "Dad, what's happening? Why is the energy spiking?" Bulma screamed, her trembling fingers trying to type emergency shut-off commands. But the keyboard was locked tight. "I don't know. An external energy source is resonating with it, Doctor," Brief shouted back, clutching the black cat that was hissing with fur standing on end in terror. Suddenly, the entire power system went out. Only the crimson glow of the emergency rotating lights remained, creating a ghostly atmosphere. On the main screen, a text appeared, flashing bright red, hitting Bulma's eyes like a death sentence. "Warning, dimensional breach detected. Danger level, infinity." Simultaneously, outside in the Nevada desert, the world began to change. The clear noon sky suddenly shifted color. No dark clouds, no storm, but the soothing blue was replaced by a crimson red like fresh blood. The sunlight became harsh and toxic, dyeing everything in red. Clouds in the sky began to swirl, not by wind, but by a massive invisible suction force. They twisted into the shape of a giant eye opening wide, staring down at Area 51 with cold judgment. At the Grand Canyon, Vegeta stared up at that blood-red sky, his body frozen stiff as stone. The warrior instinct of the Saiyan Prince was screaming in his head, "Run!" But his legs felt nailed to the ground, unable to move. Goku stood beside him, sweat soaking the back of his shirt. He sensed a familiar ki, but this time it was thousands of times larger, colder, and crueler than their last encounter. It did not bear the color of competition, but the color of annihilation. Vegeta stammered, his usually proud voice cracking with horror. "This ki, this pressure, impossible. Is it him?" Goku swallowed hard, his eyes glued to the center of the cloud eye in the sky, where a small black spot began to appear and grow, tearing through Earth's atmosphere. Jiren. Goku whispered the name of his old enemy. But this time, he knew that a true catastrophe had just begun. The blood-red sky signaled a bloody era about to descend upon the planet.